Welcome back, guys, to Cut the Curve. I'm Philip Zweig. Cut the Curve is a show I created where I interview mentors, moguls, and serial entrepreneurs. And today I have a very special guest, so you guys want to stay in tune the whole show. Nathan Payne out of Utah. Welcome, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love it here. This is awesome.
Hanging out with us. I know you had spent some time with my buddy Brent earlier, Brent Daniels.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brent. He was our first guest on Cut the Curve, actually. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Great, knowledgeable person in the wholesale world. He does a lot of teaching, and so that's what you do, right? You're a wholesaler since 2018.
Yep.
So today we're going to talk about, is wholesaling dead, or what are people doing right now?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, you could say maybe some wholesalers are dying.
In fact, yeah,
right? But you know, it's alive and well if you know how to pivot, right? And that's kind of like what's happening in the market. You got to pivot. You got to make the right moves, or you're gonna die. You know, you're gonna be out of business.
The market is definitely changing, as everyone sees
and
hears, with inflation. The interest rates are up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
what is it at right now? Do you know the interest rates? Like 7%?
Something. Oh. Yeah, I was getting investment loans at 3% a while back, and so it's changed drastically, of course.
Sure.
But I mean, I think it's just, my thoughts on that is it's just stabilizing, because for example, Arizona, we had 27% appreciation over the past few years. I'm sure Utah was insane.
Yeah, people are losing their minds now because all that appreciation there, now it's going down. They're like, oh my gosh, but it's just stabilizing, like you just said.
Absolutely. So Nathan, wholesaling since 18.
Yep.
You grew up in Atlanta area, Georgia?
I did, yeah. So I was originally born in Utah, and then my dad works for Delta, right? So he, I guess the big airport out there is a good opportunity.
By the way.
I love Delta too. Yeah, they're great.
I flew to Hawaii on them, and
they're awesome. I love it.
Atlanta.
So we moved out there when I was young, right? Okay. So I grew up in Atlanta, and after I went on a mission for my church. So after my mission on my church, when I got back, it was like a 2-year mission, and where I talked to people about Jesus for 2 years nonstop, where I kind of learned how to.
That's a great door knocking experience, I bet, right?
It was good door knocking, and that's kind of where I learned further to, like, hey, no is, that shouldn't bother you. No is not a big deal, because I got no's every day.
All the time. I'm sure, yeah.
So after my mission, my family had my sister got married, and everyone migrated back to Utah. She married a guy from Utah. My other sister married a guy from Utah. So we all just ended up getting back there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then we moved there. So that's where I live now.
Awesome. So back growing up, did you have an entrepreneurial household, or what? Like, because a lot of viewers are like, do we go to college nowadays? Do we start our side hustle? What? So times are changing, obviously.
For sure.
So, like, growing up, what was it like around you?
It's a good question. Now thinking about it, I haven't really thought about it until you asked me that. But my dad, he was always at Delta, right? He just retired. He was there with them for like 35 years, a long time, I think. And I can't remember how many years, but it was pretty much his whole span. And decades, yeah. My mom is actually the entrepreneurial type. When we were in Georgia, she started a cleaning company, because my dad is American, so I'm half white, and my mom is Chilean. She's from Chile.
No way. One of my best buddies from college, his mom was from Chile too. He was a roommate of mine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's out in LA now, and he's in the film industry. But I met her back years ago when she brought him to college.
There you go. And so my mom, like you were saying, like she's from Chile. They met, and she just had the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm just thinking about it, because she started the cleaning company, and she hired some Mexican ladies to work with her. She speaks Spanish, so they were able to kind of clean some offices and some homes. So I saw that growing up, but think about it, I didn't really think that made an impression on why I'm like that, but that might be. I saw my mom, she was doing stuff like that too. So that I did grow up with that entrepreneurial spirit, and she would do that. So that's cool. Now reflecting on it,
that's amazing. So did you go the traditional college route, or?
Yeah. So my parents were big into education too, right? Yeah. So they were never like, hey, go do your own. Not that they discouraged it, but that was what they wanted. They I don't know if they finished college, either of them. They went to college, but they didn't finish. So they were like, hey, go. And in my religion, education is extremely important. So they kind of push that, right? BYU. I'm LDS, Mormon.
Yeah.
So BYU.
So we're in Mormon country. I don't know if you know that, but Chandler Gilbert,
I've been been seeing a lot of that.
Big population.
Yeah, a bunch of churches, the temples over there. So
beautiful temple.
Oh, it looks awesome. So big education on that. So I went to BYU, Idaho. I went to a sister school. They didn't let me into BYU. I didn't have the grades, but
I think everyone wants to go to BYU.
Everybody does.
A lot of high school kids around here, they seem to
exactly.
want to go out that way.
I was at Chick-fil-A and I just heard some high schoolers talking about, oh, I'm going to BYU or I'm going to UVU. So yeah, I agree. It
must be a great education system.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's kind of like prestigious too. Like I think people were like, oh, that's the Mecca, right? So I went to BYU Idaho, and there's a BYU Hawaii, which I should have gone to Hawaii. I don't know why I didn't, but
I've heard about that.
Yeah, they got us. I mean, why didn't I go to Hawaii? I went to Idaho, but Idaho was great too. So so I went to school, finished college, got a degree in business management and the emphasis in entrepreneurship. So I knew at college that's what I wanted to kind of do.
More colleges nowadays are doing the entrepreneurial programs, I see, which is brilliant.
It is, yeah.
I mean, college is very antiquated in a lot of ways. Yeah. The teaching, I mean, before
so true.
Especially YouTube now, like everything is so quick moving. And
exactly. Like I think if you go to college, you got to leave with a skill set, right? And entrepreneurship is a skill set in the sense, but now the college offers like sales as a major. I'm like, man, I would have taken sales and mastered that even in college. But
applicable things that you're going to do in the real world.
100%.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that's why I went to college, and education was really important. But I knew kind of deep down I wanted to try something else.
Did you go into the corporate world, or?
Yeah. So talking about door knocking. So I went on a mission, knocked a ton of doors, and in the I guess the sphere of the LDS culture, being a Latter-day Saint, knocking is just something that is a big job, I guess, out there. There's knocking for solar, knocking for pest control, just selling things door to door.
Yeah.
And so I got into door to door sales in college. They were recruiting, and you made good money for a college kid. I mean, my first year, I'd never made a lot of money, and I went out for 3 months. My first year, I made $16,000, which for me as a college kid, I was like, $16K in 3 months?
That is crazy. That's amazing for 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is great. So I stayed in door to door so I got back when I was 21. I did door to door 22 up until I was 27, and I started running teams, recruiting.
What were you selling?
Dish Network, the satellite TV.
I remember Dish Network. Yeah.
not as hot probably as it was back in the day, just because of all the internet streaming services. Right. But I sold the door to door. They would send me out every summer or every fall. I'd go with a team of like 10 guys or 20 guys I'd manage. We'd go to like Dallas or Terre Haute, Indiana, like some not remote, but like maybe a little further out places, and we'd sell because the cable maybe wasn't as good, so people would like the satellite TV. And I did that for like 5 to 6 years, and it was really good. Great money. I mean, it's still great money.
Team building too, guys. Yeah. You need teams around you. That's what I heard you say, especially in your church. I know that the systems, the teams, like you. Yeah.
Exactly.
You learn a lot of that, I'm sure, and that's what you need to have whatever business, wholesale, fix and flip, Airbnb.
That's so true.
You need people around you that are gonna do what you may not be best suited to do, right?
Yeah, like I mean, you don't have to be good at everything, right?
Yes.
If you can hire the right who's, right, and the who, not how.
That's critical, guys. So I think for me, just having the right people plugged in the right places, I mean. It's one big thing I would really recommend once you start like getting into the business.
Exactly, and it's honestly I feel like one of the hardest things too is like managing people, expectations, culture. Like that's another freaking level.
So I would say communication is like everything. Like
oh my gosh,
because everyone communicates different. They have different backgrounds.
Oh gosh.
We have to really clearly communicate with our team, right?
Tell me about it. And when you start bringing in VAs into the equation where there's the language barrier, sometimes that makes it difficult to communicate too. So, and I work with VAs and I love them, but I've had VAs in the past where it's like, I've told them everything. I think they understand, but you're not sure. And
right.
You ask them and they're like, yes. And so, yeah, communication is so important for running a business.
Man, so for me, I can relate, Nathan, because my first job out of college was, some younger folks may not know about this, but copier machines.
Yeah,
So
of course.
I got an internship at Xerox, and then I sold for Canon copiers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and so I did that, and basically my buddy was, I didn't even know my old gym buddy was the manager. So I went in and he's like, you got the job. It wasn't like I had to really interview because we knew each other from the gym. But like with that company, there was no like real formalized training.
They just said, hey, go sell some copiers.
Sell some copiers. And so for me, guys, I just made it a game. Like, it wasn't about the no's, the yeses, or no, tell me more. It was like, how many cards can I collect?
Yeah.
That was the big game I played in my mind, and I was the best card collector out there, and it translated into sales.
Exactly.
And so you got to set a goal when you're, like I have a short-term Airbnb course now, so we do a lot with small manageable goals, and one of the things is contacts. We have to, you know, it's not about getting the yeses, it's in starting, it's about getting people on the phone, giving your pitch, you know, getting comfortable with the reps.
I agree with you 100%. Like sometimes people focus on the wrong measures, right? But like how many calls, right? But it's really contacts. Like how many people are you actually talking to?
Yeah,
because you could make 1,000 calls but talk to 0 people. That doesn't mean you got any closer to your goal.
And then you get discouraged too if you're not hitting contacts. So that's what we do. We kind of set a number of connection. We call it connections.
That's right.
It's like you could call, but like, are you connecting?
Connection rate is so important, right?
Yes.
And another one that I do is offers. I mean, you can talk to as many people as you want, right? But if you got also, are you putting an offer in front of them? Or are you asking them? Like, so that's how my KPIs work too. So you got the connections, and then you got the offers made, and then you got the contracts, right? So those are all things that you can control. You can control how many offers you make, how many contacts.
Yeah, I want to dive deeper into that shortly about the KPIs and systems around that, but so you did the cold calling, you were a success. You probably in the beginning it wasn't your favorite thing, I would imagine. Like was it like you get a lot of rejection? No one likes rejection. I mean, I haven't met anyone that likes to get turned down by people.
No, I mean, I think my first year when I told you I made $16K when I was starting out knocking, right? I was really discouraged my first week because my buddy, I went out with my friend who we went on missions together, and I'm pretty confident myself, always have been. So when he started getting more sales than me, I was discouraged. I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? So I called my pops and I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on. Like I thought I was good, and he's like, do you know anything? What's your knowledge about the product? I mean, I had been there for a week, so I was like, honestly, I don't really know that much about this product. And he's like, well, I mean, you're not selling to anybody if you're not confident in what you got. So then I sat down and researched, okay, why should someone buy this? Like, what are the benefits of Dish Network at the time? It's the kind of the same thing. Like, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know the benefits that can make a pain point, touch a pain point that someone might have, I mean, good luck selling something, right?
100%. So you're saying first learn, educate yourself, everything you can know about the product, and that builds self-confidence.
Build that up, right? Like you're saying Airbnb, I don't know too much about it, but if these people that are in your course understand like the reason to get it, or maybe how to pitch it to somebody, I don't know what are they trying to acquire Airbnbs?
Oh my goodness, the pitch compared to wholesale, bro, we'll go more into that, but the pitch is, the numbers are astronomically way different than
I'm
what
assuming.
I experienced in wholesale.
Wholesale, you got to be like 50% of ARV, right? Like people are like.
I'm teaching a lot of arbitrage. So what that is.
Airbnb arbitrage, I love that.
So sublease.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we do 3 different things with our Airbnb course. The first is equity, of course, where you buy the property. Second is arbitrage, and then third is you can be a property manager and make 15, 25% of what your host is making.
Yeah, so if someone has a rental, you go to them and you say, hey, like, I can manage this for you if you turn this into Airbnb instead of a rental. Is that kind of how it works?
So the arbitrage method works. We go to property management companies. We go to small landlords that have their, on Zillow, they may want to rent their property, and then we are very upfront saying, hey, we're a corporate leasing company. We're going to go ahead and sublease this, and the three things they respond is hell no, yes, or no, tell me more, educate me. So
of course. So you
yeah.
got to know your product, right? You got to
Yes.
educate them. And I'm assuming most of them want to be educated.
They do.
Because they're
And
interested.
if they are already educated, like we just picked up one near State Farm. It's over by, it's where the Cardinals play.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so walking distance.
Oh, that'll
right
be a home
there.
run right there.
Yeah, and I JV'd with one of my students.
That's awesome.
And so it's been super successful.
I love that. That sounds awesome.
We just had a guest that was paying $375 because when there's games, you can mark up the pricing based on the demand and supply.
Yeah.
So
does it do automatically, or do you actually go in there and?
So I don't do that. I have streamlined it, so I have someone running that for me. But
Cool,
they
cool.
are like, so on pricing, if you guys are new, what we do is we set pricing high. Say we have our February, so we set it very high for February, and then as the months get closer, the weeks, if it's not booking, we will adjust the pricing.
Okay, so you set it high out in case someone's like planning ahead and they're like,
and
oh,
of course the Super Bowl is coming, so like all those units are like 1,500 a night, 2,500. It's
That's
like,
freaking cool.
It's sick.
Yeah.
So
I like that strategy. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Like if a seller, if they're unreasonable with price, but if you can throw in some Airbnb arbitrage in there,
100%.
then
And creative finance is the other thing that we're starting to get more back to, where
Got it.
years ago we used to do a lot of the creative finance, but now, so people, because I'm not looking personally for equity right now, in a rare instance, but there's a lot of
Right.
opportunity right now, especially with creative finance and
oh gosh,
arbitrage. So.
you're probably gonna kill it right now because a lot of people aren't able to sell their properties, or maybe they're thinking like, oh, I don't want to list it right now, it's not moving. But you come in and you say, hey, I can get you some cash flow.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
And that's what we're seeing. Like some of the fix and flipper dudes, like they had a property they fixed and flipped. They were anticipating the sales price, and then market went down. So now what they're doing is they're saying, all right, what's my other option if I'm not getting it sold?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll rent it out. So now they're thinking of renting it out. So we come in and explain and educate them on the benefits of, us being a leasee, because there's tons of benefits that we share with them
Right.
versus a long-term lease.
Yeah, because you take care of, I'm sure, any issues, right? Like if
It's every, it's being cleaned, it's triple protected
gotta
with
think about it.
insurance, like it's not getting beat up like your long-term tenant. You don't have evictions, because I still have some long-term ones, and that's because they're not in areas that I would, some are like in really small communities. So I just had to evict a guy that hadn't paid in like a month and a half, and so that stuff's kind of a pain.
Oh, of
and
course,
with short
yeah.
term, you don't have to get into that.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm in a situation like that. We got a couple flips and we bought them when the market, like April, May, not April, May, it was like March or earlier, and now we're trying to sell them and they're not moving. Okay, it's unfortunate, but that's
Do you
just
have hard money on those?
that's what I was going to ask you. So there's hard money on 2 of those and 1 seller financing, where we're working with the seller. Are these guys that you're talking about, flippers, are they refinancing out of it and then the hard money and then doing arbitrage or doing the Airbnb with you? Or are they paying the hard money? And
yeah, just depends on everyone's situation. But ideally, so what I was doing the last couple of years, because I've been full-time, short-term Airbnb little over 2 years now. That's all I do. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
And it's
I think
been
that's cool.
amazing. So when I pick up these properties, when I buy them for equity, I will use the hard money lender, and then I stabilize the debt, which for some viewers that don't know, stabilizing, I renovate it, and then I start getting bookings, and then I would take it to this hedge fund, and they would give me rates from 3 to 4%. I could buy rates down, so I put permanent 30-year financing.
Wow.
So I got a ton of those right now, but that's obviously changed with interest rates.
Yeah.
They're higher, but I would do that all day long because they have plenty of capital. And for us entrepreneurs who are in real estate, maybe we don't have strong W-2s, but they're just looking at the asset performance.
which is super important when
Yep.
you have a week, you don't have the W-2 like you're saying, right?
Yeah, so you refinance that into 30-year, because again, hard money, guys, it's it's the purpose of it is just short term. Like
Yeah,
use
of
it
course.
6 months to,
So what would your advice be? I mean, I think my hard money payment on this property, I can't remember. I have to look at it, but it's probably like $2,000 a month or a little bit, like on just interest, right?
Right.
So it's either my option is I can refinance and just rent it out Airbnb, but is there an option where I Airbnb it and that just covers the interest only
100%.
payments?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
2,000. Like, I don't know the area, but like, so I have a property right now in Surprise, Arizona, and my hard money payment's like $1,500. Do I want to eventually refi and put 30-year debt? Yeah, but $1,500 is not a
Right.
ton of money because I think the loan was for like 126 or
Gotcha.
something, and so $1,500 I could cover that, especially in our busy time coming up.
Gotcha.
Here where we're getting like $4,000 to $5,000 a month on that property.
It's not a
So-
bad idea. I mean, you might as well Airbnb until it even sells anyway, right?
For sure, yeah, because again, I don't know where you thought you were going to be and then where it's at now. So
Yeah.
if you have to hang on to
And
it,
I honestly might have to hang on because we got it at a great price. We were looking at making like 80, 90K, but now it's like 20 if you're lucky. But again, you got to go through the process. They got to get qualified. So we've gotten a lot of seller finance offers on the properties where people are now that have
that's
need
another
the financing.
thing you
That's
can
another thing.
figure out if you want to do that.
Because we'd have to
pull some
refinance
money.
out of it,
Yeah.
right? Cash out, equity, cash out refi, and then have someone bring some down. So, that's interesting. I want to add that to my repertoire because when I talk to sellers, I think of all the different options that I can work with them. Right? You got wholesaling, fix and flip. You can keep as a rental. You can do novations. But if I can think of the
Add a
arbitrage.
6, yeah, because again, the more ammo you have,
Right,
the more
right.
tools in your toolbox,
Yeah.
you're going to control the deal. And as a wholesaler, I'm sure that's your whole thing.
You have to,
control of the
you got to find out
asset.
how you can make you're like an engineer, like a deal engineer.
Yes.
Okay, I got this problem, I got this deal, how can it make money, right? So I did have a question for you. You said something about you buy their equity out? You said
Oh,
something
I was
like
just
that?
explaining the 3 types in our course.
Mm-hmm.
It's called PIA, Passive Income Accelerator, Learning Airbnb. And so number 1, you could be in equity position, which means you actually own the asset. Number
Mm-hmm.
2 is arbitrage. So you don't have to come in with $50,000.
Right.
Like you're just starting maybe, and maybe you have 10, 15, anyone could get 10 or 15,000, I'm sure. And that's for your first month's rent and your security deposit, and then we teach you how to put decor into the property too.
Yeah, I like
so
that.
if you got like 12 or 15,000, you could get in this business, and it doesn't even have to be your business.
And you're just leasing it from
Yeah. So typically it's a 1-year lease.
And you lease and then you release. I've heard it.
Yeah.
One of my business, I would say buyers out in Utah. He talked to someone that had a 4-plex, and he did the arbitrage with each unit, right?
It's a great way to scale your business.
Yeah.
And like I said, you don't have to have a ton of capital. You don't have to prove your income. You may have to do a credit check. You may have to do an application, but
Of course,
it's
yeah.
way easier than buying a house, especially if you're 20, 23 and you want to just get in the business. That's
Yeah.
a simple way to
And
get in.
I'm sure with the leasing, they don't ask you for like a big money down, right? There's probably just a rent. They just ask for first
typical
month, last month.
Yep. So
That's sick.
literally that one in Glendale was 2,400 security, 2,400. So we got in there under 5K. I already had all the furnishings because I have a storage unit with tons of stuff. So like
love
we
it.
were up and running pretty fast. And the
think that's a
best
great
thing,
idea.
one of the better things is with arbitrage, say an AC unit blows, say a roof leak. It's not me that has to come in with replacing a $10,000.
You're a tenant.
I'm a tenant, so
Yeah.
I tell the property manager, hey, this broke, and they have to take care of that. So there's some big benefits, and like I said, younger folks who don't, I don't know, I didn't have, at 22, I didn't have 100K to buy houses.
Right.
So
Yeah. Put all that money down.
yeah, so now this strategy allows them to basically get into the game, and you know, do a number of these arbitrage, and then once they build that up, they could get equity where they buy the property. Similar to wholesalers. A lot of wholesalers get into it wholesale
because they don't have the money, right? Yeah, and then they learn, okay, now I can start using some hard money, but I got to bring in 15-20% down.
Yep.
You know, and I actually raise my private money. So you got the hard money that does 80, and then for the 20%, I just get that from someone else. So I'm never really even in on these deals.
Yeah.
So maybe you can do the same thing.
Oh, 100%.
Can you raise the private for the first and last month's rent?
Yeah.
And maybe cut your person in on like a percentage?
Yeah, we could structure it a multitude of ways. So like that's the thing when I say no money into the arbitrage, you have to be educated, and that's what we teach in the course. But like if you're educated, you're dangerous. Like you're just coming up with the structure, the plan, and then taking it to someone that has a 9-to-5. Maybe they are an engineer. Maybe they're making $200 a year. Their money's sitting in the bank.
Right.
Now we're using it, and they're making 8% interest on their money.
I love it. That's a great idea. And bringing that back, you know, because we've kind of gone, you just had a good conversation, but taking it back to being educated about products like I did with Dish, like just like we just talked about, you got the knowledge, like you said, you got the power. You know, you're going to be doing lots of deals. So that's really cool.
Learning, we also talk about like what people will, the common objections, like what are we know these bombs are, you're
just waiting for them.
Yeah, so we teach that, how do we conquer these objections, because they're almost always the same objections with short-term rentals.
Would it be something like, why would I use you guys? Why don't I just do my own Airbnb?
Yeah, we get one of those.
I feel like that's, you probably get that.
It's a party, you know, Airbnbs, my place is going to be destroyed. So there's a lot of things that people are misinformed on, so we're just educating.
Yeah. And then you just say, hey, look, if they destroy it, that comes out of their tab, you know. I'm sure Airbnb covers you if they destroy the place.
They do. And again, with these short-term rental platforms, I review the guests, but they get reviewed too. So they want to be good.
So that's like how you overcome that.
Yeah, and most people, I'd say 90% of people have good intentions. You may get just like anything. So,
of course.
So in
car rentals, Turo, you might have someone that blow your car up, you know?
And that's just welcome to, like my buddy JM, he's been in it for years, and he saw one of my places did get destroyed. He's like, welcome to the Airbnb business.
Hey, it happens.
It happens. If you're in the game.
I mean, long-term rentals get destroyed.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But it's very rare is the point.
That's awesome,
and the misconception is more common than not that my place is going to be like a party house. Well,
no, I totally get it. No.
So your experience then, Nathan, you were selling Dish. Did you get into real estate when you were selling Dish, or how'd you?
No, so I got into real estate because the way that door-to-door works is you basically leave where you live and go to a new area every summer. That's not where you're at, because you basically want to take the people out of their, I guess, their environment, because if you work at home, then they might just want to kick it at home.
Right.
So you got to kind of get them out into like a culture, an environment where they're like, let's go knock today, guys. Let's crush it for 3 months.
Nice.
And they just go.
So you take the whole team into
the whole team, yeah.
Terre Haute, Indiana.
Exactly. So that's what we did. You know, as the manager, I called the apartment complex, got all the apartments for the guys. Got the leases, short-term leases for like 3 months, and got there, got bedding, got everything ready for everybody. We got there. We had
great training for what you do today.
Oh yeah, and it was like correlation meetings in the morning where we trained role play before we hit the doors.
We do a ton of role play in our course, like that.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You have to role play, and even if you feel like it's weird, you got to do it. And so we'd role play every day before going out, and so I learned how to go and do that, and it's super important.
Man, so why did you decide to leave Dish?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So you have to leave every summer, and I got married, and my wife was like, I ain't trying to go every summer, even if you're making good money. And I was like, well, I'm not trying to do it either. So I was like, what can make good money where I can just stay and still, I love the freedom, because I worked 3 months a year when I did the door-to-door. I would just go knock, make a couple you know, a lot of money and then not have to work for the rest of the year. So
Man,
I was like,
that's one good.
it's a good gig. Yeah, it's good. It's just you know, the movement, it's very transient. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And I remember my buddy, his dad wholesaled. And he was getting into wholesaling in college. So I called up my buddy Corey.
Wholesale real estate or something
Real
else?
estate. Real estate. Yeah, so he was wholesaling real estate, just kind of like single family, like I'm doing. So I called my buddy and said, hey, your dad, I know you wholesaled a little bit in college. He's working, Corey, my business partner at the time, was doing a tech job. And I said, hey, dude, leave your tech job. I'm leaving Dish. Let's go in on this wholesaling thing together. Let's be business partners, right? Let's split it 50-50. So that's what I did. And we just went into it, didn't know anything.
Did you get any mentors, trainers?
Didn't know anything. It was just us. We just started hitting the phones. And he had some knowledge from his dad. And you can say his dad was kind of kind of told us what to do, but I mean, we just called the first sale by owners. You know, we didn't know what the heck we were doing, and I just went right into it, just me and him.
In Utah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you remember that first deal?
Yeah, so that first deal was hilarious. So it was a guy named Donald. He's from Croatia, and his home was in pre-foreclosure, but we got him from the expired listings. So he had listed his home, didn't sell it for what he wanted, so it just expired, and he was just gonna chill and let the bank take his house and then move to Croatia. That was his goal. He was trying to get out of Croatia. So Corey called him on the expired listings. We went over there. The guy's just, you know, young 35-year-old guy just lounging around, just like kind of just being depressed. And we're like, dude, why are you gonna let this go to the bank? Like, we can buy this from you. We can do this. So, you know, we would go knock on his door because of the mission experience, the door-to-door experience. We would just go there. He wouldn't even answer our calls sometimes, but we just, Donald, we know you're in there. You know, we want to help you out. What's up, guys? We'd go there 3 or 4 or 5 times just chat with him. Before we even got the deal, we were just like hanging out with him. And he's just like, all right, guys, let's do it. And we eventually got the house under contract for like 185. Had no buyers at this time. We didn't know what we were doing. And we had people come in, and the best offers we had were 185. And we're like, shh, that's what we have it under contract for. So we just said, listen, Donald, like we can't buy it at 185. We have a partner that can buy it at 180. Okay, and then he's like, okay, fine, let's do it. And then we basically just made the difference because we said, hey, you got to buy this at 185. We got the price lowered to 180, so we made $5K on our first deal, right? And it was so funny because like we're nervous about showing the house to our buyers while he was there. So we're like, hey, Donald, we need to see the house again. You mind if you take the dogs and go to the park for an hour? We'll call you in and come back. So we showed the house like 3 times, and we were just like, Donald, can you leave? And, you know, knowing what I know now, yeah, send all the buyers through. Who cares? They work with me. You know, we're business partners. But
when
I was
you
nervous.
First start something, you're like,
I don't want the buyer to talk.
Yeah. Or like, how do I
don't want that buyer to talk to him and tell him that I'm wholesaling. Like, I was nervous. Now I tell sellers I'm wholesaling their deal all the time.
Yeah.
If I'm not gonna buy, I'm like, hey, look, you want too much, I can pay this, but if you want me to run this by other people, I can, and maybe they can pay you a little bit more, and they'll pay me a fee for bringing it to them. Okay, great. So then I just wholesale their deal, and they don't care. So things have changed a lot, but that first deal, $5K, didn't know what I was doing.
Probably the hardest $5K.
Oh gosh, it was. We were sweating when he was going to the title company. It was like, is he gonna sign? Like, it's just ridiculous.
And it's
looking
like
back.
anything. Once you do it, you know it's real then, because like people will see people on social like, oh, I made 20,000, I made 50.
And they're like, screw that guy. You know, who knows if he's even telling the truth, right? I get that because I actually tell people, hey, I just made 10K, made 5K, not to flex, but to say like, hey, this is how I did it. Go do it. Because I want people to believe, and you know, I'm assuming they're like, this guy's full of crap.
I feel like the only way they could learn from you, but when they step into visceral, their whole like experience, they're in the deal. That's when they're really, whether it's a fix and flip, it's a wholesale, you really learn.
Yes.
Because
by taking that action.
Yeah, your action steps, and you, like that first deal, you remember some of the principles that you messed up on, and you're like sharpening your skills.
Yeah, and I love it still. I mean, I still make mistakes, right? Like, man, I didn't get him to sign this addendum, or I didn't get him to sign this, or you know. But
were you scared of going out? Because that's a commission job, right? Like.
Yeah, I've been commissioned since I was.
Because that's a big fear, like a false fear, I think. Oh, you could go to corporate and you can make, I don't know what it is nowadays, 100,000 or 75, or
Yeah.
and it's guaranteed, but you know, it's a safe.
I've never
salary.
I've never felt safe with salary because I've had so many friends while I've had this job get fired, let go,
That's what I'm
switch
saying.
jobs.
Maybe they have a manager that doesn't like that you have a mustache or beard,
Yeah,
and they're like,
exactly.
"You're out of here."
You rub someone the wrong way,
Yeah.
you know. So
That was me too. I'm like, I'm not gonna play this 30-year game.
Yeah, and I think like it's the security. It's a false sense of security because it's like they
That's what we're
can you
trained
whatever.
At, though.
Exactly.
I think the media trains people.
Oh,
to-
100%.
To have that sense.
Well, yeah, they want you to just go work for someone your whole life
Yeah.
and just do what you're told.
And like
but
your dad, you know,
Exactly.
30 plus years at Delta, and
that's
like,
what he was. You know, that's what he was told to do. And for me, I think the reason why I'm an entrepreneur we talked about before this is
Yeah.
because I believe in myself. Like I have a
that's
belief.
the very first step. Like you have
Yeah.
to bet on yourself.
Exactly.
Because if you don't, no one's gonna like.
And I believe in myself more than anything. Like
Yep.
if I'm gonna put myself, like I say, you or anybody else, I'm like I'm gonna believe that I can do it because I'm big into mindset. Like every day I have a routine. I get ready for the day. You
That's
know,
a common thing of all my podcasts. Every guest who's been on Cut the
Yeah.
Curve, it's not the,
No.
it's not the product.
it's not even the knowledge half
It's
the time.
not
It's
the
like
knowledge.
it's like don't believe in.
knowing you could do this, and we're big into affirmations. We're
Oh,
big
yeah.
So with the course, the first 2.5 hours getting to know someone, it's all mindset.
I love it.
It's all
Same with mine. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, before you even get into wholesaling, let's make sure you can handle the rejection and you have the mindset.
Yeah.
Because that's.
It's not for everyone, right?
Oh no, not
it's
at all.
not.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, with the way the market shifted, I mean, most people would be quaking, right? Like I got 3 flips that aren't selling, right? And
Yes.
and technically, I'm in a lot of debt. But for me, I'm like, look, I can make all that debt back in a couple months and buy those houses off cash and whatever. I'm not worried about it. But I believe if I keep going, everything will work out because that's just how life is. So, you know, just got to believe in yourself.
And you got to figure out, that's what's fun about the game too, because, all right, we were doing this, but now we got to figure out a different angle,
Yeah.
different strategy.
Yeah, it's pivoting, right? It's
Yep.
the people that can pivot that make it, right? It's
Yeah.
If you're just good at doing one thing and something changes in the market and that's all you could do and you can't figure out a way to change, like you're probably done.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
And that's why, I think it was about 2.5 years ago, Pace, you know, Pace Morby. So we were having lunch and he's like, Flip, you know everyone in Arizona, but you really don't know anyone. I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? He's like, you need to be on social. I'm
Dude.
like, that's fact. Like,
Yeah.
So I was uncomfortable, but like, did I not want to be relevant? Like, I need to change my game up. So like, yeah,
I love
I'm
that
gonna
name,
do
by the way.
social.
They call you Flip?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so sweet.
That
I like
was part of we had Flash, we had Thunder, because we had, I used to fix and flip like a lot.
Nice.
So, but you gotta have people around you that, like my mentor, when the market crashed in 08, 09, he had been through 3 recessions. So
Oh, he
it
was like,
wasn't, but faith was a big part of it too,
Of course,
bro.
yes,
'cause,
yes.
You know, it was that financial collapse. He had never been through that. So, you
Yeah.
know, even with a mentor, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But it was like more peace, I'd say.
And I'd be lying to tell you that like opportunities haven't come my way where it's like, you know, with the market changing and people come to me like, hey, you're great at sales. Why don't you do this for my company? Like, why don't you run this and with salaries? But I'm like, I believe in myself enough to just keep going through the path. I'm not an idiot either. Like if
Right.
real estate was gonna on fire, I'd be like, okay, it's, you know, it's never coming back. I'm not gonna bang my head against the wall. But I know it's gonna.
It's just it's correcting, like we talked about. It's stabilizing.
And there's
Getting back-
there's gonna be so much opportunity.
So much
in there.
opportunity.
So
Like I hear students with the false belief set where, oh, maybe I'll just wait a year to get into the Airbnb.
dude, you do not
game.
wanna
I'm like,
wait.
why would you wait?
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? Like,
dude, this is the pain that we want the sellers to feel, whether they need to sell for quick or they just don't want to deal with renters. I mean, this
Yes.
is it.
it's
this is
a
it.
great time for us as investors, whatever investment strategy. Obviously, mentors are big. So, like, I know you mentioned Jerry.
Jerry Norton.
Jerry was
Huge.
one of my very first mentors, not Norton, Jerry West.
Oh,
he
okay.
wasn't the NBA superstar. He was, because we used to get that when we went out. But
Yeah.
he's from Oregon, and he, you know, retired at 50. So that was my dream. I'm like, man, how? And
Yeah, that's
then
balling.
It was all through real estate, and then he got back at 65 when I met him.
Couldn't stay away. He was like, I got to get.
He got bored. He got bored traveling.
And that's the kind of the thing that I've realized too is like, so many people that I'm in the family mastermind. There's old guys in there that are just like they just like doing it, you know. It's like they got so much money, and I've realized like this. You just got to enjoy what you want to do because it's not like you're trying to get to a point where you can retire. And I've traveled a lot, and then it's exhausting. Like, what are you gonna go look at the Eiffel Tower for 5 seconds and you're good?
Yeah,
you know,
so you
like
go
who cares?
through phases in life, like you said, and if you're doing it for the money, I think you're doing it for the wrong reason. Because I've seen guys get into mortgage, I've seen realtors get in when it gets tough. They're the first ones to go. Like, you have to have a reason for doing whatever you're doing.
And that's why I haven't bailed, right? Because I like this, and I like working with people and helping them out. Like, I enjoy it. Like, I went live today, called the seller. Like, I go live a lot, right, for my social media. Called the seller, had a good time calling the seller, helping her out. People had questions. Like, I enjoy that.
So it's
fun.
Where do you do your calls, on Facebook?
Yeah, so I have StreamYard.
Nice.
Yes, and then I just stream it to all platforms, and I'll call sellers live. I'll call buyers. I'll just work and do it live, and then I'll have people in the chat like saying, hey Nate, you know, what question, just ask me questions. And I'm
so
like,
you probably heard everything since you do so many live calls.
Dude, I heard it all, and I love it because it's like all the objections you're talking about. Now I haven't dove into the objections of the Airbnb. I'd like to learn more about that. It's cool.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's fun because you know, there's it's like when you knock a door. Everyone that opens that door is like completely new person, new personality. You don't know if they're gonna be mad. It's kind of the same thing with this. Like, you call a seller, you don't know what the situation is. It's fun.
I would highly recommend door knocking for those folks that just want to get in the business, like, and learn from someone that knows how to teach door knocking. We were doing it for a while, and
that was my third deal, was door knocking, because I still brought that. So I was knocking doors, and it was a lady, her son that was I think it was her nephew or something. He's kind of like, you know, you could tell he was like coke on drugs and stuff. But I was like, hey, you selling? He's like, this is my grandma's house. I think so. Got her number from him, called her, scheduled a time, met, took like a couple months to do the deal, got a deal, you know, $18K as a new wholesaler. Like, that's great, you know? All from just knocking a door.
Right. So
it's crazy.
Again, one of my mentors, the more you work, he would say, the luckier you get. Like,
so true, right?
You have to throw like a bunch out there, and something's bound to stick, and then you get in that flow where your confidence builds.
Yeah, there's been times in my wholesaling business where, like, you know, I've let off the gas and I've been like, you know, I feel good, and I'll see noobs, like brand new people, getting deals, and maybe even more than me sometimes, and I'm like, how are they doing that? I know so much more. Then I'm like, I took my foot off the gas. I stopped doing what I was supposed to.
Right.
And then it makes sense. It's like, dude, I'm not making enough calls, or I'm not, you know, sending enough marketing. So
you mentioned, Nathan, masterminds. What is that for some people that maybe?
Masterminds are a game changer. I love masterminds. So basically, you want to get in a group of people where you're like in my opinion, like the dumbest person in the room. You just want to learn.
Yes.
And I'm in a mastermind right now. It's called The Family, where I feel like I don't even belong in there because everyone's a baller, right? And I'm just
game changer.
And I'm just learning from everybody. And that's the goal for me. Like, I've been in different masterminds and leveled up and tried to go to different ones, and I'm trying to go to the top, right? Just because I want to learn from people.
Yeah.
Right? So a mastermind is just getting in a collective group of people that do maybe businesses that are the same, or maybe businesses that are different that complement each other, and networking and learning from people.
Is it like online?
So the mastermind I'm a part of, it's I think it's 2 meetups a year, and they do a call every other week, where you hop on and someone from the group presents what they do in their business, and then there's Q&A, like, hey guys, I need help with this, and then everyone in the group's like, okay, we can help you with this, so it's been really cool. So we just did one 3 weeks ago in Tampa, right before the hurricane hit.
Wait a minute, you were at that one? I know there were some other buddies of mine that went.
Yeah, I was at that one.
Was that what did Josh go?
Josh.
Steve, the guy that works with Steven Train.
Josh, no, I know you're talking about Josh. That's
yeah.
I can't remember. What's Josh's last name?
He's the one that introduced us, actually.
He wasn't there, but he might have been doing something else. But
I thought Steven was heading to Tampa for some reason. Steve Train.
Steve was gonna go, but I think because of the hurricane, because Steve's in that mastermind.
Yep.
Yeah. So I went, and my wife's like, "Don't go. There's a hurricane coming," and I was like, "It's gonna be okay." So I get there Saturday. because everything's fine. Saturday, apparently, at the hotel, they're saying it's okay. And then Monday, when the mastermind really starts, they're like, you guys got to get out of here. So I was there for like 2 days, made some great connections, and then had to fly on out of there.
Right.
Before
Unfortunate.
that. Yeah.
With, hurricane and.
But that's the mastermind. You're talking about the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I don't know what they charge. I know some are 30, 40 grand, but like,
this one's actually pretty affordable. It's 50, compared to like higher level masterminds. It's 15 a year. So
that is very affordable.
Yeah.
So again, we talk about if you're new in the business, like what are some of the best ways to actually start doing business? What would you recommend for newer folks that want to do wholesale? Maybe they want to do, I don't know, fix and flip. What would you tell them?
Yeah, so what I tell them what I'm doing. It's, I think I talked to you about it a little bit earlier. It's called I call it the painless wholesaling method, or painless wholesaling. And what it is it's just reverse wholesaling. The traditional way of wholesaling is I think it's the wrong way to do it, especially right now. It's where the traditional way of wholesaling is, let me just go find some sellers, let me go market, let me go knock some doors, and if I find someone, I'll get them under contract. I hope I get it at the right price.
How much competition is in that game? Because I'm assuming that's a pre-foreclosure, foreclosure. What do you guys target? Like,
are you talking about when you do the painless wholesaling method?
not painless, but the regular type wholesale. Like, how many people are chasing that same?
If you're doing the shotgun approach and just trying to hit all the highly targeted lists, pretty much everyone, right? So that's
your method's different.
My method is different, right? So even when I first started, that's what I did. Let me go knock this random neighborhood and just hopefully get somebody, and that's what I was doing. And then it would be time I'd have it under contract, and I'd have to find a buyer, a random buyer. I don't have the relationship, and if I got lucky, I'd get someone to pay enough. That's how most people do it.
That's traditional, right?
That's traditional.
Traditional way to wholesale.
So what I do now, because not every buyer's in the game right now. Right, some have been like, let me wait.
Yep.
So I have specifically talked to 10 to 12 buyers in my market that are actively buying right now. They're like, hey, look, I still believe I'm still going to be buying. And I say, what do you guys want? What are you looking for? And I'll specifically go target it, so I don't have to buy a list of 1,000 or 20,000 absentee owners. Let me just find out what area you want, and that makes my targeting way easier.
Right. So you have a specific, and that's another thing we do also is, what's your target? Like,
exactly.
What are you aiming for every day when you're on that phone?
Exactly.
Or you're sending out flyers. So you have a very specific
avatar,
target
base. Exactly.
And those 10 to 12, are they folks you've worked with, or are you establishing new relationships? Or?
I've had to establish some new relationships, but they give me their buy box criteria, and then I go
buy box,
and I go target it. So let's give an example. When I first started, I went to a random neighborhood to knock.
Okay.
Now, if I talk to my buyer and say, hey, John, for example, if I go get a deal, where do you want it? Well, I want Indian Hills. If you can find me a 3-2 in Indian Hills under this price, I'll buy it. Okay, so now when I'm knocking that neighborhood, for example, I know exactly what he wants, and it's not like just a random thing for me.
So you're just pairing you're the middle guy, and you're putting the two together, right?
Exactly, and that's what the painless wholesaling method is, because it's painful to just try everything and just be like, oh, I'll find a buyer eventually.
That whole shotgun approach is painful.
Oh, it's very painful, because nothing's more painful than getting a house under contract and then having to cancel it because you put in all that work and you can't find a buyer.
Ooh, yes.
And it's painful. It's painful for you, your team, the morale, the company.
Man, talk to us about the pricing. Like that, I think numbers, even in a hot market, numbers matter.
Yeah.
So how have you adapted your pricing? Like, what will you we call it ARV.
Yeah.
So how do you go about that approach?
Yeah, so that's the great thing about this painless wholesaling is you don't even have to, figure it out. You ask them what they're paying. They determine what they want, right?
Gotcha. That client that you're
John, for example.
You're finding John a deal, and
and he'll tell you,
I'll buy it at this.
Yeah, so when you do wholesaling the traditional way, you negotiate with the seller, you get at a price that you believe is the right price, right? That's because you're running the comps. This way, you say, hey, John, I'm talking to a seller, they're pretty motivated. This is what their house looks like. What would you pay for this? Here's some pictures. And it's a phone call. Oh, I looked at the pictures. I'd pay $220 for that. Okay, let me see if I can get it below that and add my fee. You don't care what I make, do you? No, as long as I can get it for 220. Hey, Mr. Seller, I ran this by, ran the comps. I'm gonna have to need this at 200, and we can get it done in 7 days. You already have your buyer, right?
Yes.
Bam, it's done.
You mentioned something there, Nathan, about that guy that you're finding, you're finding John a property.
Yeah, for example, yeah.
I love how you said that. Like, some people, when they're new, they're like, oh, how much are you making? Like,
yeah.
That question, I never understood that, because as long as you're getting a deal, why do you care how much I'm marketing?
No.
Like, don't buy it then.
And that's what I say to him, and I say 220, he says 220. I say, okay, so whatever I can get, whether it's 1,000 or 100,000, you're okay with 220? Because I'm about to go try to negotiate it for you. And most of the time, like, they're pretty low, so I'm only able to get like 5 or 10. But the amount of effort that went into getting that deal is, a couple hours. It didn't take much time. And instead of me going to knock, which a lot of people do, or cold call myself, I just look at deals that are on the MLS, or I look at other wholesalers' deals where don't have the relationships I do, and they're blasting out their email list. No one's looking at it because no one cares about their emails. I just look at their deal. I say, that wholesaler just sent out something in Salt Lake. Hey, John, I know you're looking for something in Salt Lake. I don't know if you got this email, but tell me what you'll pay, and I'll go get it for you. And I'll get my price.
So you're looking at other wholesalers' lists.
It's the easiest thing. They can't sell their deals. They don't know who they're.
So you have a solution for
wholesalers.
To move their deal.
Yeah. And they're happy.
Brilliant.
They're like, hey, thanks for helping me out.
Because they're gonna lose the deal if they don't move it.
And they want to get paid.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to kill my buyer. I'm not trying to kill them. If I can do 3 or 4 deals a month at like $5K with zero overhead, like $20K, I'm good for that. And I have other businesses too. But if you just doing $20K and you have an acquisitions manager, dispo manager, no one's getting paid.
Right.
Yeah, no one's making any money. So this is like a leaner business. Lean model.
So how long have you been full-time into the wholesaling?
So I've been wholesaling for 4 years, but doing the painless wholesaling method, since the market shifted, I've had to, pivot. Because this is what we've talked about. The pivot is what you need. This is the pivot that I've done. Where
how's that been going?
Oh, it's been great. I just closed the deal last week for $10K. Spent 4 hours on the phone. Just got to get it done. Didn't have to negotiate with the seller. Just had to have my buyer walk it and then send the money to the title company. So then I did another one for $4,500. I have 2 other ones right now under contract where it's going to be $25K, and we're splitting it with the wholesaler, 50-50. Another one that's probably going to be like 10. So these are just like drops in the bucket because I don't have to.
And you're busy right now, it sounds like.
I spend like an hour doing this a day. I'm more busy doing. I'm more busy doing what.
Because the way you set it up.
Yeah, and I'm busy doing what we do. Like, we're talking. I'm trying to network. I'm trying to help others. And okay, it's time to make a call. Let me go live real quick. All right, let me call the leads I have or look at some deals. And then I record myself doing it. I don't do this all day. I do this part. That's why I think people could do this part time.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Even for the Airbnb thing, like, if you really were like, okay, what is the best area to get Airbnbs? Let me just make sure if I see any wholesalers deals.
That's what we have the target for each student. Like, what's your zip? Like, what are you
there you
willing,
go.
Like,
that's exactly what I'm doing, but for wholesaling.
Brilliant.
Just dropping it, and I have the buyers, so.
Yeah. So again, Nathan, just starting out, what do you recommend folks do just to get into, like, investment world? Like,
I would say, if you want to get into this with no money and little time, go find your buyers, get tight with 10 people. Even if you're a noob, say, hey, look, I'm a noob, but I'm looking for deals, and I can find you whatever. And then start looking at wholesalers' deals, get on buyers lists, right? Say, hey, I'm a buyer. Look at deals, go on the MLS. I mean, I got thousands of strategies. You can knock doors, right? You can get on, you could do paid marketing. You can do a little text messaging to a specific area. You can cold call. I mean, there's so many ways to get deals right now for free, and if you pay, do a little paid marketing.
Okay.
But specifically, so to answer your question, what would I do if I was brand new? First of all, I'd go find some buyers, and by the way, I have all this laid out on my site. If you want the outline, go to investorsthrive.com, and it's a free outline on how to do this.
We'll post that on the.
Yeah. I appreciate
in
that.
the podcast. So it's called
Investor Thrive, like
Investor Thrive.
Yeah,
Okay.
investorthrive.com. And if you just go to the free deals course, I give you the outline for free, and it lays out. Okay, step 1, get your mindset. Step 2,
You gotta have the mindset, bro. So
that's number 1.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's